I'm hitting record. So I've hit record because we're like 20 minutes behind already, and I apologize for all the technical issues. I was just noticing that things that have AI are prone to glitching because I Googled, I still use Google. I Googled when the June long weekend was, or no, the July long weekend, and AI told me it was in May. I was like, oh, yes, these things go wrong. So, anyways, my things went wrong, and that was very unpleasant. And it's interesting because I had a dream this morning that woke me up, and it's a very specific dream. I only have it when something that is out of my control is going to happen. I won't like it. It's never as bad as I think it's going to be. So I think this is it. I think this was my very unpleasant event for the day that I could not avoid. So I did my best, truly. So I just want to set the stage here a little bit. I am Tanya. I'm coming to you as a woman. There are reasons for me coming to a woman as a woman, and it has nothing to do with gender politics. It has everything to do with the legal system. So some of you know me as a woman that practices as a naturopathic doctor. Here, I take no titles. If you do not agree with that, then leave because I am not taking a title here. I am not acting as a doctor. I am not offering advice of any kind. I am just sharing knowledge and stories and hoping that that will be of use to you. I appreciate you sharing your time with me because I know it's valuable. And again, I'm very sorry for your lost 15, 20 minutes now. But there are many things that I want to share because there's things I want people to know how to do things for themselves without even coming to see me. And truthfully, like I would really wish you do these things and not underestimate the power of these certain things before you came to see me. Because when I'm in a consultation with somebody, I'm getting into more of the detail stuff and I'm, working things out with my hands, but there's stuff that other people like you yourself, if you don't do those things, you're not using your physiology the way that it was meant to be used. And your physiology is very powerful. It works, like things work in your body. You eat and you don't have to think about saliva production. You don't have to think about the peristalsis of the esophagus as it pushes the food down into the stomach. You don't have to think about the valves. You don't have to think about how much stomach acid you make. You don't have to consciously know how to make enzymes. Your body knows how to do all of that for you. And the only thing you have to do is put a little bit of mindfulness and awareness into the whole equation. And sometimes people, I just had somebody, they balk at the things that seem intangible, but really there's like no way of taking yourself out of the equation of your own health. Like you are the expert on you, and you have to know what works for you. So part of it is like self-knowledge piece, and part of it is like, some people are willing to do anything. It seems like just tell me what to do, just tell me exactly how much to eat, but like, how could I possibly know what's right for you? I have on occasion, there's probably one person I can think of. I have told people, I've told one woman, actually, this is one woman. She was like doing everything right. She's eating the green, she's eating the vegetables, she's feeling worse and worse and worse, and she's gaining weight and she's getting bloated and her digestion's suffering. And I helped her figure out, I was like, it's the white diet for you. It's like macaroni and cheese and grilled cheese and call it, like things that are not considered healthy by most people in my industry. And she did so much better on that. Like how you're not going to find that on the internet. And like and if you look at everything, if you outsource your own body's intelligence, you are going to be led around all over the place. Like you're not going to find an answer. You're just going to find opinions of what worked for somebody else. And it has absolutely nothing to do with what will work for you. And so, part of my job is helping people uncover what works for them. But you kind of got to just know how basic human physiology works first. So that's kind of what this class is about. And I'll tell you how how I view things and how I got here. So before, like I'm going way back. I'm going like this is old. This is how I got into naturopathic medicine in a way, in a kind of a way. So I remember the moment. So I was like about 16 years old, okay, and I used to walk to school down the back alley, cross the train tracks. I was 15, no, I was probably 16 because I was going to a new high school. So my previous high school, I'd been like bullied quite badly, and my mother moved, and I was like, maybe I'll just change schools. And I had been I was bullied on the first day of kindergarten, and then I got bullied in grade 1 because I brought a rutabaga to to school as like my favorite food. That was kind of like a show and tell. And like people brought the kids brought their favorite foods, and everyone's bringing like pizza and cheesecake, and I brought a rutabaga because I had just discovered them and I thought they were the best thing on the planet. And so that was my show and tell piece when all the kids were supposed to try it, and they're like, we hate you. But I did make one friend out of that, and he had brought a red pepper, and I was like, whoa. I thought rutabaga was good. Red pepper is like the best thing ever. And so we became friends until he realized he was a boy and I was a girl, and boys hate girls. And then that ended that. So I did not have like a great time through school, and I did it, wasn't taught how to defend myself, and I just didn't feel I had any support. So I was bullied in high school. I was bullied for most of my elementary school and a junior high life. And I was not a happy person. I wasn't happy. I was like, I was angry. I was very angry. I was depressed. I didn't think anything was ever going to work out for me. And, I was still pretty young. And I remember this day so clearly. It was a beautiful day. It was probably like early fall, like school had just started, and the sun was shining, and it was actually a really nice walk. And crossing the train tracks, there was grass, and it's just like one of those beautiful days. And the thought occurred to me that I could be happy. It was just like, you could choose that. You could choose to be happy. You could allow happiness in. There doesn't have to be a reason. You don't have to, there's nothing to get here. You could just choose to be happy. And it was like, I could. Like, it kind of like gave me a sense of power. And I don't know where the thought came from. I felt like it was a divine thought. And what happened next was like, I was like, that's very odd. Within seconds, like my hand really started to itch. And I looked down and I was scratching it, and there were like little hives on my hand. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And I knew it was related to the thought, like things are going to improve. But this rash showed up, and it started on this middle finger. Go figure. And then it spread over time, over months. It got worse. It spread over to my hands, my whole right hand. Then my whole left hand, and both my hands were like affected, itchy, terrible, itchy, rashy. They used to crack open. I worked at Pizza Hut at the time. I was, washing dishes, doing all kinds of stuff. And heaven, I don't know, who knows what happened with my skin at Pizza Hut. But it just got worse and worse and worse. I went to the doctor, and they gave me corticosteroid creams that stank, and I didn't like them, and I applied them, and they kind of worked, but you had to keep applying them, and they didn't really do the job. And so I gave that up. And then I still had the rashing. I had a bigger spiritual awakening when I was 19, and through a series of events there, I got called into going to naturopathic medical school. So I finished my degree, which was in agriculture, got a few prerequisites. I got accepted to a school in Seattle, Bastyr University, and I still had this horrible eczema. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll figure it out here. So I went through the 4 years of schooling and still didn't figure it out. I went to we had a student clinic. So I went to see student clinicians and took their advice. Fish oil, all the things, foods, da da da. And meanwhile, I had been detoxing and fat, doing all the things, that a person would reasonably do. I ate pretty clean. Still, eczema continued. I got out, I started my practice in Winnipeg, and I was practicing still had the eczema. It was like terrible. It was really terrible. And then, and I was at a show or like some kind of conference, trade show kind of thing. And, there's vendors, and they sell products to naturopathic doctors because we can sell supplements to clients. And I met this woman, and she said, oh, try these products. And I didn't think anything of it at all. They were like these unusual products from Germany. They were based on a very different concept, which I had no clue about. It didn't make any sense to me. And I was like, I had zero expectations. So I just bought a couple things. I said, okay, it was pretty random. And then I started taking them and just like little small drops. Like they were like homeopathic. And my armpits started itching. I'm like, well, that's not working out well. So I stopped because they go really itchy. They got worse. And then my hands were still bad. Better because I'd cut out gluten. I could better, but not 100%. And so then I stopped the drops. But the itching, everything continued. Now I had armpit itching and hand itching. I was like, this is really bad. So I restarted the drops and I just decided I was just going to finish them. I'll just finish them. And by the end, like it was about 4 weeks, start to finish, I finished the drops. The hands had totally cleared up. The armpits stopped itching. And these were fungal remedies. These were made from fungus, if you believe it or not. But the concept was totally, totally different, and totally different from a concept that I had learned in school, even through naturopathic medical school. This was like, what is this? So the concept is like, you got these things in you called protids or protites, or however they say them, and they're the precursors to all the microbes in your body. And you can see them on a live blood analysis. And they're just like little dots, and they just kind of buzz around, and they're helpful. They're helpful to you. But when your system changes, when you become too acidic, when you get stressed, when there's stressors on you, they transform and they become aggressive. They turn because they think you're dead. So your tissues become acidic and they think you're dead, and they do their job of breaking you down and returning you to the earth. That's their job. And so what these medicines do is they replace the protids, and they put the homeopathic version of different fungal things, sometimes bacterial things, in that medicine. You take that medicine, it clears out the aggressive forms and it replenishes the helpful forms. And this actually worked for me. This was the only thing that ever worked for me. So I was like, I gotta figure this out. So of course, like Health Canada steps in and takes away a bunch of our medicines, right? So some of those powerful medicines are not available in Canada anymore, if you can believe that. It's true. But so this was one of the things that kind of like shaped my worldview. Plus, I'm a Buddhist meditator, and I've studied homeopathy. And in homeopathy, it's like really the view is there's a constellation of symptoms, which includes your mental, emotional, physical symptoms. It's all one. It's all about pattern recognition. And the information coming out now is not so much, it's like not 1 + 1 = 2. It's not like you have this diagnosis. And we could talk about diagnosis too, because I don't really believe in diagnoses because it's a mental construct, truthfully. But if you have this diagnosis, you take this thing, okay, then it's going to get better. It's not really like that. It's like if you have this pattern of blood work, then it indicates this. And that's really how I tend to think. I think along those lines more than anything else. On top of that, I've been a meditator for many years. So it's really about like so many things. In the Buddhist tradition, they say, well, there's no you. Like, just try to find it. And more recently, I've undertaken inherited family trauma. It kind of says the same thing. When kids have issues, you're dealing with kids. It's like you got to take the parents and the ancestry into the equation, because we're all enmeshed with each other. The kids are not separate from their parents. The kids are not separate from the family. That's an idea. And Buddhism says it's not true, and inherited family trauma says it's not true, and family system says it's not true. And then I take mineral balancing, and it tells us, what it informs me of is that we're a set of, the body is mineral. The material world that we live in is mineral. Nitrogen, oxygen that we breathe, that's mineral. The plastic is made of carbon, that's mineral. In my body, calcium, sodium, potassium, magnesium, phosphorus, sulfur, molybdenum, magnesium, all those things, this is mineral. And the minerals have different resonances. So if like the sodium's high, the personalities it gets very aggressive. So is it you being aggressive, or is it the high sodium? Is it, if the calcium's too high, people get like kind of dampened and slowed and, like maybe a little bit too chill. And is it the calcium, or is it your personality? And so it all kind of comes, we're not what we think we are. There's not like an individual you. There's patterns resonating within you that are creating something that we experience as a life. And in the new, all the information, there's the microbiome project. What's coming out with that is like, it's really like the microbiome is huge, and it interacts with your nervous system and affects your personality and vice versa. It's a two-way street. You affect your microbiome and your microbiome affects you. So where I say you, where is the you in that? And so how do we work with this? How as the people that are interested in our health and interested in doing better, how do we work with that? Because we've got lots of challenges, like especially right now. I'm going to tell you what the challenges are. They're huge. And what's even more, it's going to be like complicated because we don't even know when it started. Like back when I was going to, I was even considering going into agriculture. I wanted to be a vet when I started out. And so I paid a visit to, I don't even know how I did. I think I just like called the University of Manitoba and I went to the agriculture department and I met with some people. And this was like, well, probably like more than, I was probably 16, 17, 18, somewhere, probably. I hadn't graduated yet. I was deciding where I wanted to go. And I met a couple gentlemen. They were really very nice to me in the food crop sciences. What they were doing was developing strains of wheat that had higher protein. Well, that's what we live with now. We are eating their strains of wheat that they developed, and they did it with good intentions. They're like, we think wheat needs more protein because there's so many malnourished people, and we're sending wheat overseas, to help people that don't have enough to eat, and we want it to have higher protein content. And that higher protein content means more gluten content. That's how it turned out. Like that's what we have. So we have very highly glutinous grains right now, which is why people have a lot of sensitivities to wheat right now versus the more ancient varieties. So that was quite a while ago. And we also have parents that maybe were on birth control and grandparents that were on various medications for things. And we actually don't know what all the consequences of those things are, because we now understand, the issues can go back generations and maybe health problems start like in the womb. So the only thing we can do is interact with our physiology, because there's a lot of things out of our control. And then, if we look at what we're living with today, we've got stress, the way that stress impacts our health and our digestion. So one of the things that I really want to instill in people today is like, I don't think it's a good idea to eat when you're stressed. Like if you're really stressed, a lot of people lose their appetite. There's a certain type of person, or I guess it's a coping mechanism. They comfort eat. That's stress eating. That's what you do instead of dealing with the discomfort. So if you understand how to emotionally regulate yourself, that becomes unnecessary. Because the way that the nervous system works is when you're stressed, the blood goes to your jaw to bite, but not necessarily to chew. It's an aggressive thing, to the arm so you can fight, so you can defend yourself, to the legs so you can run, and your heart starts pumping. You know this. You can feel when you're really stressed. You're like, I stood up. I'm going to put a little plug in here for the anti-fluoride movement in Calgary. The city officials are planning on putting fluoride in the water. So I went to an event and I was like, if I could get the mic, I'm saying something. And they gave me the mic and my heart was like, I was like, okay, you can do it. You can do it. But you can't ignore it. And so I told them, our public servants are out of control and they're poisoning the water. And most people don't even know what the effects of fluoride are. And if you don't know, then you don't have to dig too deep. You just scratch the surface, you're going to find out more than you think unless you already know, right? And so if you know, then that's great. But, I'm trying to get people to write to the city elected officials and also the people that manage the city to say, hey, we're not really interested in having fluoride because one, we're paying for it, and two, the benefits are really not that great. And there's risks. There's lots of risks to putting fluoride in the water, including accidentally poisoning the whole city. So there you go. But yeah, so there's like that kind of stress. There's time stress, when you're rushed. When people are rushed, they're like just rushing through things. A lot of people seem to have that. And it's diverting the blood away from our digestive systems. And then we're going to eat. Well, the blood is not, I mean, as far as I understand, all the organs in your body need blood if they're going to work properly. So same thing goes for the digestive system. So this is what I'm going to start making my recommendations right now, because we've got like 18 minutes left. So if you're eating right now, I would encourage you to just pause, feel into your body, feel into your like sacrum, feel into your tailbone, just notice what that does to you. Just notice what that does to your energy. And just let yourself be pulled down. I know I'm speaking too fast because that's kind of stressed out because my webinar wasn't working. And yeah, and just notice that the fastest way that you can interact with your nervous system is through the breath. And so one of the ways that you can very quickly, faster than anything else, convert, like switch over, or balance your nervous system so that it's more in the parasympathetic mode, which is considered rest and digest, or it's like more the communal mode. If you can eat with people, it's great to eat with people, because having that community really is very calming for the nervous system. It creates a sense of safety. So, and I don't necessarily care if it's box breathing, but just really being observant and slowing the breath down. If you can just slow the breath down for a little bit. So it's like, I think before you eat is a really good time to like just pay attention. How am I feeling right now? How am I feeling before I start to eat? And I know it sounds like a little thing. It's not a little thing. I've been in like traumatic situations. You can't eat. Like, when you're like, you put something in there, it's just like, you can't, it's like, no, it's not going to happen. Like, there's no eating that's meant to happen here. Same thing if you're sick. Why do people try to eat when they're sick? Don't eat when you're sick. There's actual things that happen. Your physiology changes. You're not actually meant to eat when you're sick. So it's a good thing to check in and see how you're feeling. We think we're supposed to eat 3 times a day. That's an idea. I don't know where that idea came from, because certainly our ancestors did not eat 3 times a day. Usually they ate when they could, when they were together, and they had pretty, aside from running from bears and wolves and stuff like that, they weren't like busy in the way that we're busy in this, as far as I know, like shepherds, you watch sheep for a few hours, you just see what happens to your nervous system then. And we also have this information overload. So like people actually don't know what they're supposed to eat. And this is one of the things that, I think it's so important to be able to listen to your body. I've got clients, they'll be like, just tell me what to eat. Just make it easy for me. Just tell me what to eat. And then I might say, like eat nuts or whatever. I'm just making something up. And they'll be like, oh yeah, nuts give me a rash. Okay. I'll be like, okay, if nuts give you a rash, then don't eat them because I tell you to eat them. And this is something that we do. We hand over our authority. This comes back to sovereignty. This comes back to, I stand under nobody but God. But don't outsource your authority. Like that is yours. That's the intelligence of the universe speaking to you, is like how you relate to your body. Your body is there for you. It's always in the present. It's always giving you feedback. And all you got to do is take a little bit of time to listen to it. And for some reason, that's the thing that most people don't want to do. And they don't think that it makes that big a difference. But that's the foundation. That's the foundation of everything. Until you get that, everything else is it's just fluff. Like just like they say, you can't out supplement a bad diet. You can't outdo, not, you can't do enough to make up for not listening to your own physiology. But there are certain things. Oh, and the other thing is toxins, right? So, I mean, we had this chemical revolution a couple generations back. It's only gotten worse. There's what I do want to tell you is there's like glyphosates are persistent chemicals. They stay in the environment, they accumulate, and they're still being used all over. DDT is still being used, by the way, but the glyphosates are actually worse. What they do is they bind minerals, and you are, as we know, mineral. And so how do you operate if glyphosates are binding the minerals and making them unusable for you? Because that's going to be very challenging. And one of the things that they do is they destroy those gap junctions. I have slides here. I know we're running out of time, but I kind of did want to show you some things. I'll show these to you later. How about that when I I'll do a screen share. One of the reasons that one of the few reasons that wheat has become so problematic is they started spraying it with glyphosate to dry it out, but not just wheat. It's also a lot of legumes, a lot of non-organic things get sprayed with glyphosates to dry them so that they don't go moldy. Now this is now, so they're not just getting sprayed once, they're getting sprayed twice. Like before, everything gets sprayed with, anything that's GMO is pretty much, I mean, aside from breeding, it's going to be sprayed to kill everything other than that one thing. And then sprayed again to dry it out so that they have a pretty much finished product while it's still standing in the field or on the tree or whatever it is. Yeah, it's a problem for our digestive systems. And I'm like, well, if you're gonna eat wheat, I would definitely go for organic wheat. People somehow think that's not going to make a difference. Of course it's going to make a difference. There's a few things that really will make a difference. Don't eat non-organic strawberries. Like, just don't do it. They are grown under tents, then they get sprayed with pesticides like all the time. If you're interested in what crops have the most pesticide residue, there's like the environmental working group. They've got their Dirty Dozen and their Clean 15. You can go on there. But certainly like the legumes, the conventionally grown legumes and wheat and grains, things like that, I would eat organic. I think it's actually very important. And then, there's also the genetic modification that I told you about. So just the breeding, we don't necessarily know what that's doing. So if by increasing the protein content of wheat, we dramatically increase the gluten content, and it makes it much less digestible or much harder for our system to digest, then that's a problem. And we've bred a lot of things like that. And it brings us back to this monoculture idea. Like we're trying to fit ourselves into what the system tells us we're supposed to be, when really it's like a diversity that makes for a healthy ecosystem. And you are an ecosystem. It's like you're an ecosystem of minerals and cells and protists and the microbiome. And the microbiome is so diverse in and of itself. Like we are living in a holographic universe. There's no room for a monoculture here. And the more diversity you have, the more resilience that you have. And I don't have a kill philosophy about anything. Like, I don't kill bugs. I don't kill earthworms. I try not to kill mosquitoes, and I don't try to kill microbes. I just don't think it's a useful strategy. Because what we really want is diversity. And I have found that for me, it doesn't work. Maybe it works for some people, but for me, it doesn't work. So I'm not like the functional medicine model is, remove. So you remove offending things, like, let's say you had food allergies, you'd remove the food allergies. And then you would, and then you would like kill the things that are bad. If there were such a thing as, if there are bad things, you would kill them, so you would take, if you're not taking antimicrobials or like antibiotics, you might take like an herbal antimicrobial, like a berberine or Oregon grapefruit or oregano oil, things like that. But again, I tend not to do that, because you're going to wipe out the good bacteria, so-called good bacteria, so-called bad bacteria, all at the same time. And really, for the strength of the system, you need everything. You need the fungus, you need the bacteria, I'm not convinced we don't need parasites. I'm not convinced of that. Like, it's still, I remember finding out how, if you have certain types of worms, like intestinal worms, I'm sorry, I know it's lunchtime, but they help modulate the immune system so that you're less likely to develop autoimmune conditions. So, like, there's a place for everything. And that's one of the things that I wanted to stress. So, there is a class coming up, and I want to get more into the organs, but I guess the things that I wanted to share was the things about the nervous system, breathing, breathing, breathing slowly. You could do the 5 in, hold for 5, 5 out, being in your body, paying attention to how you eat, how you feel when you eat. The next thing is chewing. Like the way the body works is on enzymes. You need to make, and digestion is a really, it's a laborious process. You have to make stomach acid, you've got to make enzymes, you've got to make saliva, you've got to make bicarbonate, you've got to organize all these things. You've got the nervous system has to organize the peristalsis, there's immune system, it's a big job. And so you don't want to make that harder than it needs to be. It's quite hard enough. And it's a very, very simple thing. And it's just chewing properly. And when I say chewing properly, I mean like 50 chews per mouthful. And it sounds like a lot, but it goes pretty fast. And I know people think it's boring. And then people tell me, I don't have time for that. But they're willing, they'll be like, just tell me to walk for 2 hours every day, I'll do it. But don't tell me to chew my food 50 times. And I'm going to tell you that will make a bigger difference in your digestion than most of the other things that you're going to do. Because when you throw in chunks of food, here, maybe I'm going to try the screen share. Let me see if I can do this here. Let me see. We can pull up. We got to get into Canva. Here we go. Give me 1 second. 1 second. I'm going to attempt a presentation. Present. So exit. And okay. And we're going to try the screen share. I'm going to try screen share. And I don't know if I can. Apps, AI, host, share, advanced sharing. Maybe I can't. I don't think I can share. I don't see it. All right. Well, we're not going to do that. But when you chew, you create much more surface area. Like the enzymes are little teeny proteins that break down your food. And if you throw in big chunks, you're trying to you've got a big chunk of food and you've got a little teeny little ant here trying to eat that, break it down. Well, that's not going to be as effective as if you had like little teeny chunks and you have a little ant. Because you want coverage, you want surface area. And so that's the one thing that chewing does really well. Plus it mixes it with your saliva, which has all kinds of enzymes and good things in there. Saliva apparently helps you detoxify really well. Hello, I don't know. Oh, Sveta. Hello, I apologize for all the problems that we had in getting started if you were trying to get on earlier, but thanks for showing up near the end. And we're almost done, and we were just talking about things that we can do to empower ourselves in terms of like what you can actually do, and it's high. That you can actually do that's going to be impactful. And I was just talking about chewing, and I said 50 chews per mouthful. And yes, you will forget. You will forget. There's going to be times when you're like just a little bit of time, you're going to feel rushed and you're going to go back to just eating how you used to. So what I do, because I fall into this habit as well, is I recalibrate every so often. I just think like, oh, I should just check this meal. I'm just going to check what it's like. I'm just going to count my chews. And I just count and I'm like, does that feel different? Does that feel the same? Usually it's like, oh yeah, I should chew a few more times. I'm actually getting pretty good, pretty consistent, 50 chews per mouthful. There is nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being bored when you eat. That's a good. Being bored when you eat's perfect. Better is like grateful. Bored is okay. Grateful for your food and being grateful for the teeth that you have to be able to chew is a level up. But the other thing that does is it slows you down. So some people have a hard time determining how much they should eat. And I'm not going to tell you how much you're supposed to eat. I'm not going to tell you how many calories you're supposed to eat. That is something that your body knows inherently. And part of your job is to figure out how much. And it's not to fullness. I can tell you that, because if you eat to fullness, it's unpleasant. So if your body gives you the feedback that something is unpleasant, that's not, then you've overdone it. So usually they say eat to 75, 70, 80, depends on somewhere in there. It's less full, but satisfied, but not full. And the only way people can discover that is by slowing it down and chewing. And there is this tremendous resistance to doing these easy, simple things that get the most results. Seriously, like you can't take enough enzymes to make up for chewing. You can't. And you can't take enough vitamins to make up for like not eating good food. So I'm going to see if there was anything else in here that I needed. Yeah, dietary wise, personally, I'm a proponent of a whole foods diet, but I don't think that there's one diet that's right for everyone. Again, it's like you got to be able to, you have to know yourself. It does take a little bit of time and a little bit of effort, but there is like nothing that you can do that will be better for you than to know what resonates with your system. And it might change from season to season. It might change depending on how old you are. It might change in your lifetime. I grew up, I was vegetarian for many years, and my grandmother, who was Indian, she was vegetarian, and she taught me how to cook. She lived in Trinidad. And she said, you can't be a vegetarian now, you're too young. And I was like, what? I'm a vegetarian. She's like, no, wait till you're older. And now I'm like 52, and I'm like, I might want to be vegetarian again. It just kind of feels right. It was not right for me when I was young, but it started to feel a little bit maybe more right for me now. So, there's also the piece of your heritage and your lineage. And I just want to throw out this idea of, we have designer bones. Our bones are made for us. They're modeled based on our weight and how we carry ourselves and our distribution and what we have to do and how we move. And our bones are constantly remodeling. And I have a sneaking suspicion that our gut microbiome is exactly the same, in that it is custom formulated. And it responds to you, what you eat, how you treat it, how you think, how you feel about it, etc., and how you feel in general. And sometimes people talk to their bodies and they're like not very kind to themselves. They're like, why don't you work properly? You're giving me misery. And the body's just talking to you. It's just saying, I don't like that. And then we berate our bodies because it's not doing what we think it's supposed to be doing, but it's doing the very best it can. And most things are working better than we give them credit for. Most things work extraordinarily well. And there's a few little things that might not work as well. And those are the things that are calling for our attention. And yeah, so if we're kind to our bodies and we're just like, hi, I think I would like this. Let's feel good today. We can talk nicely to ourselves and to our bodies and be happy about our bodies. And that feeling, that nice, like that positive feeling that we can have, that affects the microbiome. Just like the microbiome can say, I'm kind of cranky. So, we don't have control over everything, but we got control over some things, some of the time. Not always, because everyone has things, right? Everyone kind of like goes off track a little bit because that's the world that we live in. Anyway, so I think we are at 1 o'clock. We're just after 1. I wanted to talk about the cycles as well. There's a couple other things. This is just for maximizing your physiology. The body is an animal. The body's an animal, and we're also little kids at the same time, all at the same time. And what animals really love, as you will have probably noticed if you've had animals, they like routine. They like things to be predictable. They want to know when their breakfast is. They want to know when dinner is. They want to know when they're going for a walk. They want it, they notice if something's out. Oh, my dog, like as soon as something new is in the backyard, she's like, what is that? And her hackles go up and she's like, oh, I don't know if I trust that. So we want our bodies to feel like relaxed, about most things, unless it's time to not be relaxed and you just want it to be ready. But if you are consistent with your eating times, with your sleeping times, you will have a much better time of things. Sleeping times, waking times. If you do shift work, that's really, 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 really hard on the body. Like those are the people I'm like, I don't even know what to do. Like I think shift work where that changes, I think it should be outlawed. It's probably one of the worst things that can be done, imposed upon a human being, because you don't set yourself like a timer. Like people need regular sleep, regular wake, and regular eating time. And it doesn't mean you have to eat every day. It doesn't mean you have to eat breakfast every day. Just be consistent. So I do like fasting. I think fasting, so I'm doing also a course, and there will be a whole module on fasting and food elimination and all these other things, like kind of like the dietary stuff that you can like tweak to learn more. And I will cover fasting. It's actually quite a big topic. The way I like to do fasting, it's not, I would never call it intermittent fasting. I know that kind of is a thing right now. But if you are fasting, it just means you just be consistent with the way that you fast, and consistent with the way that you break your fast and things like that. So those are the things: setting the nervous system, right? So being calm, being appreciative, being in your body, being relaxed, taking your time, doing some breath, chewing, being kind, speaking kindly to yourself, speaking kindly to your body. I said the chewing, being regular, being with the cycles. And also we might also consider our menstrual cycles if we're women, because eating probably changes throughout the menstrual cycle as well. So there's lots of cycles we can be aware of, but the daily routine cycle is the day in, day out. And I can assure you it is what you do for yourself day in, day out that has the biggest effect, more effect than any medication that you can take for the most part, and I'm sure there's always exceptions to the rules, but it's like what you do on the day in, day out is essentially what determines your health. It's not heroic measures. It's like the little things that you think don't make a difference are the big things that make the biggest difference. And then fasting. And personally, I like water fasting. But again, it needs to be modified based on who the person is. And I think that's it. So we're out of time. We're after 1, and I apologize for rushing through that. There is a whole other 6-week course where we dive into the specifics of the organs, how to care for them, the medicines that I use for those organs, how to determine what the if it's that organ. So for example, like this might clue you in that it's a gallbladder thing, or this might clue you in the liver or a stomach, hiatal hernia, those types of things. So this is just based on my clinical experience of doing manual work and the particular types of medicines that I use. And usually they're very like gentle, super, super gentle things that most people not only tolerate, but will do very well on. And so I just tell people in this class, like, this is what I would do if I had gallbladder issues, for example, or small intestinal issues. There's the option to do, if you have benefits, you can sign up for a physical exam, and I do physical exam, and I can tell you, I'm just going to read the chat here. I can tell you what organs are off on you if you wanted to do that. And we have a special introductory offer for that. Thank you, Sveta, for being here. I appreciate your time very much so. And yeah, have a good day yourself. Yeah, so that's going to be a 6-week class. There's $50 off of that package. for today only. And if you're with Synergy, just give them a call and they can set you up. If not, I will be emailing out the replays and all the other instructions after I'm done here. Okay. Any questions from anybody else? Jazz, are you still there? Have you gone? Might be gone. Anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And okay, great. So, any questions, Jasmine? Maybe not. So I will bid you. Oh, not yet. Yeah, I went a mile a minute. Anyway, okay, I'm going to end the call, the session, and I'll send out the replays in a bit and further information for you. Okay, bye-bye. Thanks.